And we are excited to introduce Dean Whittaker from Langston Department of Ag. He will be kicking us off and telling us a little bit more about what Langston has to offer.
Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
It is a real joy for me to be with you today and to participate in this important conference. We call it a summit, the 2021 Oklahoma Local Agriculture Summit. Although there is a name change from previous conferences, the focus continues to be in support of Oklahoma's agriculture and in support of our communities across the state. And while I cannot see all of you, other than seeing you virtually, I know that there are many of you out there. So please accept warmest welcome to our conference. Much work went into our planning with all of you in mind. So as best as you can, feel comfortable and let us know if there is anything at all that we can do to better meet your many needs. This conference would normally be held so that all of us could be together to greet each other personally and largely experience the beauty of social and professional interactions. But then came the act of nature that has completely changed our circumstances and indeed many of our plans. But as many of us know well, such is life. Nature very often dictates much of what we do and reminds us that change is one of the very few things that is truly inevitable. Today marks the first day of our two-day summit. And so, as you see from the very rich agenda that we have and the informative electronic documents, both days are filled with practical and very usable information that are likely to make significant difference to you and to our communities in general. Many of the concepts for presentations and the workshops were included because of the feedback that we very often receive from many of our stakeholders. Langston University, as many of you may know, is one of our 3 land-grant universities in Oklahoma. And our mission demands that among other programs, we provide an avenue through which we engage and support our consuming population, our agricultural producers, our underserved populations, address social and economic challenges in our rural and urban communities, and indeed prepare the next generation of leaders and practitioners. At Langston, through our academic programs, we firmly believe in doing our part to educate and train future agricultural scientists and leaders by providing superior quality educational opportunities to our students, not only while they are in school, but even after graduation. Our research programs are diverse and are geared towards seeking to find new avenues to understand and resolve pressing problems and issues that constrain production, consumption, and quality of life of people. In extension and outreach, we have an imperative responsibility to meaningfully engage our people in our communities. And I must say thanks to our extension team, led by Dr. Ringer, Ms. Wilson, and others. We are very committed to expanding our footprint and to ensure that our impact is felt tangibly in terms of improvement in people's well-being. And in each of those mission areas, we serve broad community programs for all people throughout the state. But at the core of our work is to build capacity in communities around our state, and especially in those areas that have been underserved and underrepresented in many different ways. For me personally, and for members of our team, our work will not be complete unless and until we are truly making a real difference for people and helping to improve the economic and social conditions of communities. For even as we have seen progress on many different fronts, we recognize that many members of our population are increasingly challenged by difficult issues which affect their quality of life. We see the prevalence of food deserts and food insecurity. We see the issues of income inequality, and we see the poverty in many rural and urban communities. Indeed, we understand that it is a time when our farming communities are themselves experiencing undue burdens in many different ways. A good example is the ongoing pandemic, which has affected all of us. But for many in our communities, and very likely some of our members in the audience, lives have been disproportionately challenged and have been worsened since the pandemic started. I say thanks to the great partnership with ODAF and ONI, as well as with other groups. We are quite enthusiastic that our School of Agriculture and Applied Sciences at Langston University is aggressively and proactively in the forefront of seeking to address many of those grave issues and challenges that are sadly constraining many of you and many other stakeholders. I want you to know that we are all partners in our mission, and we are fully committed to building even greater collaborations. We will coordinate important programs that are geared towards supporting your needs and to ensure that the eventual outcomes and impact of our work is about helping you. I often say that we carry with us the constant thought that we are given the baton in the relay of life, and we must unwaveringly do our part to be truly impactful. As you will see from the presentations today and tomorrow, our programs at Langston University are expanding in scope to better meet the needs of our diverse communities throughout the state of Oklahoma. In this regard, we are mindful of the issues of today, but we're also forward thinkers who recognize the many and rapidly changing landscape of tomorrow. We will be there to support you and to help navigate the uncertainties of tomorrow. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is again a great pleasure to be with you virtually today as we hope for better days ahead, when again we will be able to meet each other face to face, when we'll be able to converse and do things together. Please continue to enjoy the conference and learn from each session as much as you can. Importantly, do not hesitate to let us know if there is anything at all that we can do to assist you and to always support your needs. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean Whittaker. That was very insightful, and I'm really excited to see all of the wonderful things Langston will be talking about today, and featuring the wonderful work that the Langston Ag Department has been working on over the years. We are going to start our first actual presentation, educational presentation by Tracy Payton Miller. And let me see. Hold on. This is our first time to do this, so we are learning a little bit too. I see that many of you guys have entered in the poll about your experience. And we're seeing that we have a wide range of first timers. Well, this is also our first time to host a virtual conference. So there we go. All right, wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, great. Are we ready?
I believe
Okay,
so.
great. Well, thank you guys for joining us virtually this morning. Thank you, Dean, for that wonderful introduction. So I'm going to start out a little bit giving you an overview of some of our horticulture programs, things that are upcoming for Langston Horticulture in the Department of Natural Resources at Langston University School of Ag. So I kind of wanted to start out. I'm Tracy Payton Miller. I am assistant professor of horticulture here, and I also advise our crop and soil science students. And so what you'll see over the next couple of years is hopefully some changes to some of our academic programming and some of our offerings. We're currently revisiting a lot of those and making sure that we are offering up-to-date and revised majors for our graduates. We also offer many research opportunities for our graduates. Of course, we are well known for the GOAT program, nationally recognized program, but we want to bring up horticulture to meet some of those standards set by that wonderful program. So beginning, we are going to talk a little bit about our upcoming construction project. So I kind of just want to overview that with you really quickly. So I can get this, there we go. So as you see here, here's a map. And that red square is kind of showing where this facility is going to be located. If you see this highway right here, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but that is old Highway 33 that used to pass right through the center of Langston. It's now facing, 33 is now farther north of there, but we'll be just south of the main university campus. We will be building a horticulture facility for extension and research purposes, as well as classroom learning and some other opportunities, outdoor classrooms, extension projects, demonstrations, research projects. So we'll have a head house and a greenhouse space as phase one. We plan to add other offerings as well, as far as hoop houses and gardens and outdoor classrooms. And so we really want it to be a one-stop shop for all your horticulture information. And so we'll be focusing on specialty crop production as well as sustainable agriculture. Of course, my specialty is biological control, so I hope to continue my research with that, as well as helping students learn about horticulture and some of the basics. And then we also have my colleague, Dr. Maton, who does tissue culture and daylily research as well as some biotechnology applications. So we're really hoping to build state-of-the-art location for horticulture research to serve our students, to illustrate some of this horticultural knowledge to them. I always say horticulture is user-friendly. Everybody's got a tree or a lawn. Not everybody has wheat and cattle. And so this is a way for our students to really get some hands-on learning opportunities, even if they come from the middle of the Oklahoma City metro. We want them to know what agriculture is. So we'll have an indoor classroom as well as office space in this location. Again, we want to do on-farm demonstration, extension events, have a place for students to possibly hold horticulture club meetings or have plant sales, or it's just basically going to be a really nice facility where we can welcome people to come join us and learn. So we'll have laboratories, hands-on learning, research, ongoing research projects. Outdoor gardens and hoop houses, of course, we have Micah Anderson here, so he would be planting at this location as well. So we're really, really excited. We've approved the preliminary plans, and so you can kind of see where it's going to be located. We hope to break ground on this sometime in May or June and get started on this facility. So I just kind of want to show you some images of our beautiful facility. This is our head house. This will be approximately 4,000 square feet. It will include a classroom learning area with state-of-the-art technology, as well as an area for actual hands-on dirty work, as well as office space. So that is the head house area. Plenty of parking, plenty of information to be gathered here. So the back side, this is facing north. So this beautiful facility will be facing our campus. And then around the back side, we'll have about 3,600 square feet of greenhouses separated into 3 separate spaces. We'll also have a little bit of rainwater collection, so still working towards those sustainable methods and working on sustainable agriculture as well. So in these greenhouses, we hope to have, again, student learning opportunities, research ongoing, and lots of really nice things going on in these greenhouses. State-of-the-art, new technology, upgraded greenhouses. So this is what we're looking forward to. This is our big apple, so to speak. So we're really, really excited about this. Really excited to have a place for our students to go and to learn and to offer programs to the public. So that kind of wraps up that part of my presentation, but I want to, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about insects, which is kind of my thing. I love bugs. And we had some crazy weather this year. So a lot of people are going to want to know, how does that affect our growing for this year? What can we look forward to? Did the freeze, we got what, -15, I think, in Stillwater Perkins area where I live. What kind of pests can we see coming down the pipe? What's gonna be the big pest problems this year? Well, let me get out my crystal ball and consult the stars, and the good answer is we don't know. Just because we're entomologists, unfortunately, we can't predict the future. I can offer some guesses, which is what I'm gonna do today, but it's always variable. There's always conditions that dictate what kind of insects we're gonna have problems with. But I can offer some guesses, and if it pays out, then you can pay me at the end of the year. I will take your bets now. So what do we got coming down the pike? Well, for a no money back guarantee, I'm betting that you're still going to have problems with spider mites, aphids, and various moths. Why? Because a lot of these come in. A lot of our aphids are migratory, and so they will move south to north on a lot of those wind currents. Same with moths. We do have some moths that tend to be, for lack of a better word, migratory. And then you typically always have issues with spider mites. And so these are the ones that I can probably still guarantee that you're still going to have an issue with, are those spider mites, aphids, and moths that can fly in and still do damage. What else? What could we see? Well, we had winter weather, like I said. So it kind of depends if you think about how some of these insects may have overwintered. If they were exposed, yeah, then there's a chance that those numbers might have declined because of the negative temperatures. So it kind of depends on the overwintering strategy of those insects and how they overwinter to begin with. A lot of insects, well, all insects are poikilothermic is what we say. And so they all take their generational and metamorphosis cues from temperature. And so a lot of them will be, there won't be a change from the norm. It'll warm up and they'll go, it's time to get busy. Okay. But some of those guys, because they were exposed, you may have lower populations. Now, it doesn't mean we won't see any, but we may see less than we have in previous years. So it kind of depends on exposure. How are these insects exposed to those negative temperatures? So just a little reminder on how insects metamorphosize. So you have two general types of metamorphosis, right? And so when we see with aphids and grasshoppers and squash bugs, they have what's called incomplete metamorphosis. And so they go through three changes: egg, nymph, and adult. The nymph is very much like the adult, it just doesn't have wings. And so it looks very, very similar. A lot of these cases, these guys are going to go overwinter as eggs or adults. For example, with squash bugs, they overwinter as adults. And so if they were exposed to those negative temperatures, there's some potential there to have lower numbers. On the other hand, a lot of our insects overwinter as larvae or pupa in the soil, and this would be indicative of complete metamorphosis. So this is your butterfly metamorphosis that you learned in kindergarten, your egg, larva, pupa, adult. We still have some that can overwinter as eggs or adults, but those guys that are going to be in the soil would have been protected. And so they may be able to survive a lot of those low temperatures that we experience. So it helps to kind of think a little bit, again, with pest control, knowing the biology of your pest and knowing the changes that they go through over the winter. For example, unfortunately, our beautiful monarch here, if they're exposed, and these butterflies, which everybody loves to see, if they were exposed and they overwinter in this fashion, we could see some loss there. We could see some lower numbers. Now we could see, it's not a guarantee. So again, it depends on exposure. How exposed were these overwintering structures when we had those cold snaps, okay? The fact that we didn't have a whole lot of acclimatization period could affect it even more. On the other side of the coin, we have a lot of Crape Myrtles in Oklahoma. With those negative temperatures, we could see a loss in some of those because they're not adapted to those low temperatures, okay? But these guys that are exposed as pupa, we may see some death here, okay? And that's unfortunate because a lot of our people love to see the butterflies, okay? Unfortunately, these guys that are deeper in the soil are probably well protected. So I don't know that we're going to see any drop in numbers in a lot of our moth pupae. Okay, so this would be like a tomato hornworm pupae right here on the left. And then on the right, we have grub worms. And these would be very similar as well to cicadas. They're going to be in the soil. They're going to be protected somewhat. And so those negative temperatures may not have affected these insects very much. So I don't know that we're going to see any change very much in our endemic moth populations or our grub worm populations in the soil. Cicadas. I think it's the year that we had one of the broods of the 17-year cicadas emerge. But these guys also overwinter in the soil as pupae. And then you see these nice little crusties on your house or on your trees where they emerge as adults. And so a lot of these pupae are triggered to emerge by changes in temperature. And so you may see that we have more of an emergence of these guys even if we weren't expecting a brood to emerge later this year. So we have several different types of cicadas, and the entomologists keep track of these and what year it is and what brood is going to come out. Aside from our annual dog day cicada that's going to come out every year, we may see some of these periodical cicadas that have a 7, 10, or 17-year emergence pattern. And so this may trigger more of them, especially depending on where they're at in that soil, to emerge. Again, thinking about those temperature changes and those triggering some of those behaviors. So we may see more cicadas. Squash bug, everybody's favorite. These guys overwinter as adults. So this left-hand side is the adult form of squash bug. These guys overwinter as adults in leaf litter. So again, depending on exposure, if they were in an area where they weren't as protected, you could see some lower numbers of these. So it just kind of depends on exposure as well. But again, because they overwinter as adults, if they're not protected in that leaf litter, we may see lower numbers of these. Now, once they get reproducing, forget it. But that initial emergence this spring may be somewhat lower than what we usually see, because if they were exposed and frozen, then they wouldn't be able to come back. Okay. Grasshoppers. So grasshoppers are, and I apologize for the stock photo, I just really like how this was illustrated. So Grasshopper females have a reverse post hole digger on their abdomen. And so they stick their ovipositor in the soil, they expand it, and then they drop their eggs in. And so those eggs would be, those grasshopper eggs would tend to be protected in the soil. However, if we have a very, very wet year, there is a fungus in the soil that attacks and feeds on grasshopper eggs. That's why typically in drier years, we have more grasshopper issues. So if we have a wet spring, our grasshopper issues in late summer probably won't be as pronounced. And these guys are hard to control. They can fly in, they can fly out. Just be thankful we don't live in the 1800s where your only option was to burn your field. So hopefully we don't have to set fire to anything. But again, that depends on some of this weather that we're seeing. If we have a really wet year, again, we may not see as many grasshoppers. Now you'll still see some, but you may not see as many as you're used to in very, very dry years. So I wanted to talk, I think I'm ahead of time, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming events. Please like and follow us on Facebook. That's where you'll get a lot of our updates. I'm usually trying to post everything that we've got coming down the pike. So make sure you check out our upcoming, our Facebook page for upcoming events. We do have the Sustainable Gardening School. This is going to be the second Saturday of every month beginning in April, and we do have the flyer up on our Facebook page. We'll have registration information forthwith as soon as we get that lined out. Micah is going to be heading this up, and with various speakers, we will be doing this in Boley, Oklahoma, one of our historically Black towns, but we will also be trying to offer it virtually. So if you don't want to make the trip or you want to still come to the gardening school, but you don't live anywhere near Boley, you can still join us virtually for these classes, especially if you are concerned about COVID. So that will go April through October, and it will be all kinds of information as far as fruit and vegetable gardening for market or for, say, backyard gardening. We'll cover pest and disease, we'll cover harvest and marketing, we'll have some hands-on demonstrations. So please join us for that if you're interested in learning how to grow fruits and vegetables or herbs or anything like that. We'll also be still offering our Small Farmers Conference. That is to be announced at this point. We're not quite sure when we're going to hold that or if it's going to be far enough in advance to where we can have it in person again, if we're going to need to do virtual. So be on the lookout for information about that. And we'll provide that on our Facebook page as well. I had tentatively planned last year to have a controlled environment horticulture conference. But COVID happened, right? So we are now going to have a virtual one-day conference on May 19th. And this will be controlled environment horticulture. So we'll be talking about plasticulture. We'll be talking about hoop houses. We'll be talking about greenhouses. Any way that you can manipulate your environment to grow things. This is going to be very important if we continue to experience climate change. Anything we can do to moderate some of this climate. So we'll go over lots of different ways to do that. We'll have various speakers on topics. Of course, Micah is going to give us a general overview of plasticulture again. I'll be talking about greenhouse stuff. We'll have Steve Upson from the Noble Foundation talking about hoop houses. So we'll have a lot to offer. It'll be a packed full day virtual event. So follow us on Facebook. It's Langston University Horticulture Extension and Research. We are always posting on events there. I'm also going to try and do some garden chats. So let me know if you're interested in that. I just want to do some Facebook Live events to where we can just talk about horticulture and different issues that you're having, and just kind of talk about what's going on. Just very informal garden chats on Facebook Live. So again, follow our Facebook page to be in the loop on all of these things. So with that, that's all I have. Please email me if you have questions. ptracy@langston.edu.
See if they have any questions.
Yeah, let's see if there are any questions from the
So let me
chat.
go ahead and go into the chat and see if anybody. There we go. What do we got? Hello from ODAF. It is I really hope we see less squash bugs too, but again, don't bet on it. All the mulching you did to protect plants will allow squash bugs to survive, but it will also allow a lot of other things to survive that you want. So always a good idea to mulch. Mulch moderates soil temperature. So when we have those extremes, it helps to level that out, also helps to prevent weed emergence and prevents moisture loss. So I'd love to connect with you too, Erica. Again, my email address is P as in Paul, TRACEY, don't forget the E, at langston.edu. Email me your questions. That's what I'm here for. As part of my, thank you, Meredith, as part of my extension work. So please let me know if you have questions about horticulture or insects.
And then another thing, Dr. Payton, is tomorrow, the next day, you'll be able to interact over Hoover also.
Yes, I will be able to interact over Hoover, so just let me know what I can do for you. So thank you for joining our Langston track. We're happy to see so much activity and happy to help you anytime. So I'm gonna mute myself now.
All right, wonderful. And again, to explain that, we will have a community, we have somebody needs to be muted. Okay. All righty. So we will have our Hoover app going, and there is a chat in it. And under community, you click on community, and then there's all these different conversations happening. You are welcome to engage there. We are